New poll out of Iowa shows a very close race between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. You can see it right here. So in June, that's this new poll. It's 44-43. Back in March, Trump held a 10-point lead. So this has moved really quickly. And part of why this caught our eye is because Des Moines Register, Seltzer & Co. polls rated very highly. They're usually really accurate. And this is a state, Saagar, that Donald Trump won by 9 points last time around. I mean, this isn't even really seen as a swing state at this point. It's one that has really trended red. And for it to be close right now is a very bad sign.
We're not even supposed to think about Iowa. We're like, it's going to go red by 10. And then it's just like, how much is it going to go red by? And yet, Joni Ernst, there was another poll that found Senator Joni Ernst, down by a single point there. So, again, this is not something that even supposed to be is a tough election. So Trump up by 1. This is from Nate Cohn in the Des Moines Register poll. 9 points worse than the last one. But as he said, it's better than he would have guessed when it had Ernst trailing and a Dem actually up on the generic ballot in Iowa. But I think one of the things that...
Biden kind of does sub in well for just generic Dem. That's like kind of his lane,
But the thing is that one of the things I think we try really hard here is to try not to buy too much into this. Because it's very easy to be like, oh my God, he's doomed. This is what Michael Moore was talking about. We have a very different view from the rest of the country. These are Republican officials. And maybe they know something that we don't. So this is from Politico, where they're saying that they think that Trump is going to win by a landslide. So beyond D.C., GOP officials see Trump on a glide path to re-election. And one of the officials here, this is from Robeson County in North Carolina, which is one of the most swing districts in the country, says the more bad things happen in the country, he thinks it solidifies support for Trump. Nothing's going to stick because if anything, quote, it's getting more exciting than it was in 2016. And another thing that they point to is actually the economy. So they're saying that once things begin to reopen, that it's very possible we could see as much of a downturn that we've seen, that we could see an uptick in support for Trump. And actually, just as we are reporting, doing this segment, just got the numbers in. U.S. retail sales are at jumped 17.7%, 8% higher than was actually expected by Wall Street analysts. So it is a promising result. Now, again, retail sales and all that, it's great, up by 17, but it's not even close to where it was before. So there are two tails in the U.S. economy. You can always tell. The real question is which one do most people feel is more to their lived experience?
Right.
We have no idea what that looks like.
And we do have, the other numbers in that Des Moines Register poll, they ask, is the country on the right track? 63% say it's on the wrong track. Only 22% saying it's on the right track. I like the 15% that are unsure. Like, who knows?
I want to meet these
Who
22.
could really say? But look, and also in that poll, only 37% approve of the way that Trump has handled the protests. 53% disapprove of the way, or 45% of Iowans say they approve of how he has addressed coronavirus. So that's also not a majority view. So the idea that the more bad things happen, the more excited people are about Trump, I don't think that really holds. I think there's this, look, we all live in bubbles, right? We certainly understand that, like, people living in this town in New York and the South Quarter, like, that's a certain bubble. But there's also a bubble because of the way that people have separated themselves one from another, because of the sort of, like, cultural divide and geographic divides in the country. There's also a bubble that exists in the strongest strongholds for Donald Trump as well. So if you go there, you might be like, everybody still loves Trump. What are you talking about? Right? Without seeing that, look, this isn't just one poll. In poll after poll, in particular in swing states from the Sun Belt down to Florida up to the industrial Midwest, you're seeing this same erosion of Donald Trump's support. Now, you're absolutely right. It's a long time still between now and Election Day. It's not as early in the cycle as you might feel that it is, but there still is a long time, especially like what is time even anymore? Things happen at this rapid pace. The world gets turned upside down overnight. Anything could happen. People could be feeling completely different by Election Day. Joe Biden could have to actually come out and speak and like ruin everything for himself. You know, right now, just being the generic Dem is all that it takes. That could all shift. But if you look today, not just this Iowa poll, but a lot of polls coming out that are just devastating for Trump.
Yeah, I mean, we were looking just before the show. There's a lot of new polling coming out of Michigan and elsewhere. Arizona, actually, a new poll just came out from Civics, which is a great pollster, saying Biden is 49, Trump 45. And then actually in the Senate race, even worse, is that Mark Kelly's up 51, McSally at 42%.
The incumbent Republican.
The incumbent Republican down almost 9 points there in her Senate Senate race and Biden up by 5 in Arizona. And then in Michigan, that's another state where you can see, this is actually from Epic MRA, Biden 55, Trump 39. So, I mean, that is, again, this is a single, it's outlier, all of that. But the average of all the of Epic MRA polls went from D+6 in January of Biden of over 6 to D+16. So it's about trends more than it is about the polls themselves. And one of the things they talk about in this political story is that a lot of people are just purely distrustful of the polling industry itself, of CNN and many of these other people. And I totally understand that, given how they not rigged, but I would say dramatically misreported and underestimated Trump's chances in the 2016 election.
Yeah.
There were very, very few people.
Well, it's funny because the pundits really dramatically underestimated Trump's chances. The polls were off, but not by that much.
Right.
And they were off in a few key states that totally changed the game. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, basically. So the polls were not as off as is caricatured. The pundits were just as wrong and certain and absolutely not, Trump could never win, as was caricatured. So data still means something, especially when you see everything moving in the same direction. Look, is Joe Biden up by 15 points or whatever in Michigan? Probably not, right? That's probably an outlier. But I think you see the trend moving in the wrong direction. The question for Biden is always that question of enthusiasm. People are not excited about him. They're excited to vote against Donald Trump. Is that enough, right? That's one question for him. But then we were talking earlier on the show, and I recommend people should go and check out this analysis, particularly from you, about the SCOTUS decision that just came down and how that might deflate some of the enthusiasm on the Trump side. And that could be very damaging to him as well, because that's the thing he's always had going for him, is his people are diehard. That's what Michael Moore was saying. They will do whatever it takes to get to the polls, to figure it out, to be there, rain, snow, pandemic, whatever is going on, they will be there. Joe Biden's people maybe not so much. Do you think that the SCOTUS decision takes some of that wind out of the sails?
It's possible. It's more about turnout in deep red states. That's where it would affect anything. So places like Alabama, Georgia, Texas, and others, places with large evangelical populations, it could depress some turnout enthusiasm, but really I think it could just I think it's not as bad for Trump as it is for the conservative movement. It has much more to do with the Federalist Society, with the GOP kind of infrastructure. There's a political story, which I'm sure you saw. GOP senator, it was like conservatives lose their mind over SCOTUS decision. GOP senators don't care. And I was like, there it is. They don't really care about you. What they really care about is they love the fact that SCOTUS greenlit that Appalachian pipeline. They did their job, man. They got exactly what they needed to get through the United States Senate. So that's the way that many of these people look at it. And I think that awakening against that is more about long-term politics than it is anything about this particular one.
Yeah, but to circle back, that Iowa looks like this, that Arizona, I mean, these are not states that the president can afford to lose, and right now they're very much up for grabs.
Yeah, so we'll keep you guys updated.
Indeed. We're rising for you after this.